No one can deny that the Premier League is the best league in the world, as it has become the dream of every talented player to play in it, which makes the league more competitive and attractive year after year, due to the large amount of investment and the diversity of their methods of promoting the league. And among this means we find the Fantasy Premier League, which influences the league in many aspects in ways you cannot imagine. So watch the video to the end to find out just how influential it is. Firstly, the Fantasy Premier League has reduced the level of intolerance among club fans, so you can see that some fans aren't bothered by a club they don't like winning, simply because they have players who have contributed with points, and they don't mind if a club they don't like keeps a clean sheet, as long as the goalkeeper is in their fantasy team. And sometimes we already know who's going to win the game before it starts, and there is no room for surprise, especially when it's Man City, but you will watch it anyway because your captain is Haaland. And sometimes you are watching the game and the score is 6-0 and you are in the 70th minute and the game is getting boring, but you keep watching it because your players are still on the pitch. We also look at the games before the round starts, meaning before it arrives on Friday. We look at whether a player in our team is injured or not, because if so, we should sell him or at least put him on the bench so as not to lose any points. We know in advance all the games that will be played this week, or in other words, we know all the games that will be played over the next 10 rounds, and we plan when to put on the wild card or bench boost or any other option. And with a lot of interest in the players, you know their names even if they play for small clubs and aren't very famous, or like players in other leagues, even if they play for a respected club and play in one of the European competitions. It's rare that you know them, and that's because you are not interested in them, especially as the concentration of football fans has dwindled in recent years. It's hard to convince them to watch the match to the end without being distracted by any other thing, especially with the emergence of short-form content. As a result, the fantasy leads them to follow the matches and their details against their will. At least if they don't watch the matches, they will be interested in the news about all the players who played and who stayed on the bench, who scored or gave an assist, who was sent off or yellow carded, and who had a clean sheet. In the same way, when you have a fantasy team, you feel that you belong to that league in a certain way. For example, if you buy shares in certain companies, you feel that you belong to them and that you are interested in them, because if they win something, you win, and if they lose, you lose, and therefore you follow the matches and you feel concerned. You may say that if you pick your team, you don't need to watch the match and its details, you just need to look into the app and find out if your players have got any points. You're right, but when we watch matches live, the experience is different and we get excited by every attack and every chance. But when you enter the app at the end of the day, you live that moment once, whether it's a good feeling or a disappointment. And what makes it unique is that it's free. Anyone, anywhere can download it without paying a fee, and that's what makes it accessible to everyone, and the competition is fair. The more football knowledge you have, the more points you get, and although we all know that's not always true, sometimes you spend a whole week in analysis and calculations, and in the end you get 40 points. But that's all what makes it unique. And also the advantage that we don't pay or lose anything is that if we do, we'll get into gambling and all those things that a group of people don't like. Otherwise, it will be banned for professional players in this league. And most of us play fantasy not to win the prizes on offer, but simply because we feel good if we got any points, and we are not just losers, or we got more points than our friends. And I think I don't need to explain it, because you know where I mean. A lot of us play it even if we don't want to win anything. Otherwise you can't leave the feeling of whether to buy this player or not, whether I put captain for this player or that one, and what's the right round to put wildcard, bench boost and triple captain. And the pain is always about a player for a while and he's in your team, but as soon as you have sold him, he explodes and gets good points. In addition, fantasy in general makes us feel even a little the people we only watch on TV and keep criticizing them, even if we haven't tried their job even once in our lives. I mean, fantasy makes us feel how difficult the coach's job is, because before the round we choose the best players we can pick, but suddenly our best player gets injured in the first minute, or we concede a strange goal and we thought we were going to go out with a clean sheet. Also, with a budget of 100 million, we can feel the clubs that have a limited budget, so they have to buy a group of players and they can't lose a huge amount of money on a single superstar player, and so on. It also can affect the quality of the player himself, whether he's a goalkeeper or a striker. He's a human being who would feel proud if a group of coaches picked him from their team and made him a captain. If I were him, I wouldn't want to let down all those who put their trust in me. So I think they are too, especially as the players themselves play it. It also helps to increase discussion and interaction about the league on social media, and fantasy talk has become an integral part of our discussions about football, whether with friends or in the virtual world. This has created its own community that interacts with each other, disseminates information, and provides assistance to each other, insofar as there are YouTube channels and pages on social media that have thousands of followers dedicated just to fantasy. To know the extent of its spread, especially YouTube channels, because YouTube requires more effort than any other platform. But all this did not happen overnight, but with efforts for over 20 years. When the fantasy began in the 2002-2003 season, the number of coaches was only 76,000 and now exceeds 11 million according to the last season. And although you think that number is small, you are very much mistaken. It's very big. To know how big it is, just remember, to be number one, you have to beat more than 11 million people. So all respect to all those who have won before. I think all the winners feel that they are Man City, because you will need continuity to win, without forgetting that no matter how hard other leagues try to emulate their ideas, they fail, especially as all these leagues are weak compared to the Premier League, and the matches are less exciting. Also, many of the players in the Premier League are famous and good, and you can earn points if you buy them. Unlike other leagues, the majority of good players are at the big clubs. You can't buy all the players from one or two clubs. Even more than that, if we ignore the quality of the league and the players, they have many other problems. For example, the app itself is not that good. Even if you don't try them, you can read the reviews on the Play Store or the App Store. You will find that people are upset because of a lot of things. Up until this point, the fantasy I like next to the Premier League is the Champions League fantasy. I play it every year and I recommend it. The rest I have tried, they are not that good and fun. But the problem of the Fantasy Premier League or any other fantasy is that it kills the belongings and the enjoyment of the matches, and most of your attention is on the players in your fantasy team and not the match itself, meaning you get a kind of point addiction rather than enjoying watching matches. So don't let the obsession with points control you, or at least do not betray your club for points, especially if your goal is not to win prizes but just to have fun.